Welcome to the Stellar Counselor podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Mimko. The Stellar Counselor podcast looks to shine a light on some of the common questions and concerns that come into my counseling office. I look to provide a counseling lens through big topics like gaming, screen time, cyberbullying, and many other issues that intersect between our children's mental health and technology. So, what should I be concerned about when it comes to gaming? The most often brought up issues are screen time, cyberbullying, and violence in video gaming. While each of these items are issues, there is a lot more nuance, and I would like to dissect that for you to offer a more well-rounded perspective. Additionally, the video gaming industry is rapidly evolving, just like technology in general. What may have been popular even 5 or 10 years ago is no longer the case today. So first, I will break down the 4 big topics of video game issues. They are violence in video games, video game addiction, school performance, and antisocial behavior in online gaming. Then I'll give an overview of where we as parents should have our radar on a much higher alert. And these are things called dark patterns, or now they're kind of being called deceptive patterns. This may be the first time for you hearing those particular phrases, but don't worry. While the terms are new, you are certainly aware of many of the practices that are embedded in a lot of these games, as they have shown up in a lot of sales tactics on online purchasing, or even in the way that we have been sold magazine subscriptions in the past. The goal is to really empower you, the parent, with what is appropriate gaming for your child for their developmental stage. And really what is actually harmful versus what is not. The content and the context of the gaming is far more important merely than the quantity and the duration of the gaming, or even just the fact that they are gaming. Gaming is not inherently bad. Let's start with violence in video games. There are many correlation studies showing a positive association between violence in video games and an increase in aggression. However, it's important to emphasize this is a correlation and not a causation. A correlation does not imply that the violent video game caused the aggressive behavior. It's just stating that the presence of aggressive behavior also showed that these individuals played violent video games. It could simply mean that the individuals who are more likely to be aggressive are more likely to play violent video games. A simple correlation example in the real world is like ice cream sales relative to sunstroke incidents. An increase in ice cream sales did not cause the increase in sunstroke incidents. The cause for both was the increase in temperature. However, there is some evidence associated with long-term exposure to violent video games having a causal effect due to priming. Priming can condition the brain to respond in a specific manner when confronted with an environmental cue. So with a game such as Grand Theft Auto, that exposes the player to a lot of violence against women and other negative societal behavior, there is some evidence that over the long term, the player may be at risk due to priming. However, there are no studies that link the video game to criminality and other games like that. It's also interesting to point out that recently, in February of 2020, the APA, the American Psychological Association, issued guidance that mass shootings should not look to video games as the root cause. There is simply no evidence at the moment in the academic body of work to point to video games as the underlying factor that is causing individuals to conduct mass shootings or any of the extreme behavior that is being seen. Moving on to school performance. Many parents bring their children to counseling are primarily concerned about their child underperforming at school and are looking to their gaming as one of the culprits. There are two main manners in which gaming has shown to have a negative impact on school. The first is the displacement effect, and the second is the lengthy duration of play. So, the displacement effect can be explained as the time that is being used to play video games is time that's being taken away from studies. Time is finite, mental capacity is finite. However, it is important to point out that this is not strictly a video game problem. Video games should be placed in a larger bucket of all screen time and perhaps even all recreation time, depending on what else is in that bucket. But just keeping it to screens for the purpose of this argument, it's not the video game that's displaying the schoolwork, it's the computer, the console, and the smartphone. Additionally, having any of these devices present while studying automatically leads the brain into an attempt to multitask, a feat that has been shown that brains do not do very well. Brains can't do two things at once effectively. They quickly alternate between both tasks, resulting in reduced working memory and executive functioning, which ultimately leads to a negative impact on academic performance. Therefore, when studying and doing any schoolwork at home, this should occur without the presence of the device. The second negative impact is the duration of gameplay. A significant study demonstrated that playing 50 minutes at a time had no impact on school performance and sleep. However, when playing 150 minutes at a time, there was a significant negative impact on school performance and sleep. This shows that an hour of play is not detrimental, but when you exceed 2 hours and push close to 3 hours, there can start to be noticeable effects on sleep and school performance. This study isn't a daily limit. It's really emphasizing the duration of a single gameplay. There is a significant difference between playing 3 1-hour stints throughout an entire day compared to playing 1 3-hour stint on the brain. Let's move on to our third item, antisocial behavior. Online gaming is full of antisocial behavior, including trolling and cyberbullying that is filled with racist, sexist, and homophobic language. All of this occurs in chats and on the headsets. But why is this so prevalent in online gaming? The psychological term for it is de-individuation. Jamie Madigan of Getting Gamers defines de-individuation as a mental state where people's identity fades into the background of their thoughts so much that they become more susceptible to cues from the environment and people around them as to how to behave. This results in reduced social accountability and reduced self-monitoring of the gamer's own impulses. Adolescents and children are at a higher risk due to their lower ability to self-regulate, making them more susceptible to be influenced by this behavior. Whether it's peer pressure or their own desire to feel like they belong, they begin to behave in a similar manner. The separation between the gaming world and the real world is more fluid than for the adult brain. Now you, the parent, start seeing this terrible behavior at home or being reported at school. Often, it's a difficult space for parents to navigate, as they are unfamiliar with many of these online spaces. Their children feel so comfortable and confident, and very persuasive in arguing the positives. They also learn really fast how to hide or omit the negatives. The best thing that you, the parent, can do is to sit with your child and play alongside to develop an understanding of why your child finds the game so engaging. It will also open your eyes to where some of the risks are. I would encourage you to investigate the risks before banning games outright. Understand what you may be able to control with the parental controls instead of taking an all-or-nothing abstinence approach. Try and understand your child's interest by showing an interest to see if you can find common ground before cutting everything off. Of course, systemic behavioral issues in areas like voice and text chat can be avoided by just not using that area. However, that doesn't mean you need to prevent the gaming from happening. I would also like to point out that there is a movement within the gaming industry at the large gaming studios to tackle this poor behavior. Some progress is being made, but it is very slow and difficult to manage. I will update if and when some of these major changes occur. And lastly, of our 4 big topics here, video game addiction. Playing a lot of video games does not equate to a video game addiction. Duration does not mean addiction. As of now, the only behavioral addiction that's listed in the DSM-5 is a gambling disorder. For those that don't know, the DSM-5 is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders and is the primary manual used by mental health practitioners when diagnosing mental disorders. Internet gaming disorders is mentioned. However, it also says that further research is required to assess if it is in fact a disorder. Nonetheless, for our purposes, if we are to look at video gaming as an addiction, we can look to substance addiction symptoms and alter the wording as needed. Symptoms would look like always thinking and talking about gaming when not gaming, withdrawal symptoms of sadness, anxiety, and irritability, needing longer duration to satisfy the urge to game, can't stop gaming for any meaningful length of time despite trying, losing interest in activities that were previously enjoyed, using gaming to relieve negative moods, sadness, anxiety, and hopelessness, at risk of losing their job or removal from school due to excess gaming, and lying about the amount of gaming to their friends and family. Now, just having one of these symptoms doesn't mean an addiction. You need 3, 4, 5 of these symptoms when you start looking at an addiction. Just having a symptom is just that, a symptom. Looking at the current research demonstrates several findings. Those that are most likely to report having a gaming addiction also are most likely to report not having their needs met in real life. This was a study that was done in 2018 by Allen and Anderson. The gamers have turned to gaming to numb their discomfort. And so for children that seem preoccupied with gaming, I would be curious to know what else is going on in their environment, both inside the home and outside the home. Przybylski in 2017 showed that researchers estimate between 0.3% and 1% of the general population may have signs of gaming addiction. Therefore, it's really important to point out that there is a distinct difference between addiction and passionate gaming. The major guidance for parents that are concerned about their child's potential overplaying of video games is to pay attention to several things. What types of games are they playing? And is it online versus offline? Who are they playing with? Is it friends, strangers, or against the computer? And is it displacing other important aspects like schooling, extracurriculars, and sleep? Now that we have given a general overview of those 4 broad gaming concerns, I want to introduce a new term to cover truly concerning aspects of gaming that all parents need to develop their understanding and awareness. It's called dark gaming patterns. These are deliberately created experiences by game designers that benefit the game designer at the expense of the gamer, their enjoyment, and often their money. They have become so pervasive that governments across the world have begun to investigate and in some cases fine gaming companies. At the government level, they will refer to dark gaming patterns as deceptive patterns. In September 2023, Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite, agreed to pay a $245 million fine for violating the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule by making it difficult for gamers to cancel and request refunds related to purchases of battle passes, llamas, and cosmetics. The complaint demonstrates that Epic Games intentionally made it very difficult to cancel the purchase or request a refund. They created an unnecessarily complex process to deter gamers from seeking a refund. The lawsuit demonstrates that major gaming studios intentionally mislead and deceive gamers for profit, and that these practices are now on the government's radar. However, it's not just tangible monetary practices such as the Epic Games fine. Presently, there are at least 6 different video game addiction lawsuits being filed against various studios, including Microsoft, Minecraft, Roblox, and Epic Games, Fortnite. The lawsuits include language such as addictive psychological features, operant conditioning, predatory monetization, and dark patterns. The website www.deceptive.design frequently updates all the recent legal lawsuits around the world on deceptive patterns. However, it is across all types of tactics online on various websites and apps. It is a good resource for everyone, not just parents of gamers who is on the internet. The website www.darkpattern.games offers information specifically about dark patterns as it relates to games that are on Android and iOS devices, but not gaming consoles. The website provides explanations of each type of dark pattern to be on the look for. Additionally, through the use of a user rating system, it provides a rating for various games for their dark pattern metric. Games receive a rating anywhere from +5 to -5, with +5 being very positive and -5 being full of dark patterns. Looking at the big 3 games I have mainly been focusing on, in order from good to bad, Roblox is rated +1.51, Minecraft +1.12, and Fortnite -1.89. Each overall score is a composite of 4 categories, which I will further explain and give examples: temporal, monetary, social, and psychological. Darkpattern.games defines a temporal dark pattern as a pattern that is designed to get you to spend more time playing the game than you would otherwise. Examples include daily rewards that encourage you to come every day and feel punishing if you miss out on it. These could be really hard to get items that are only achievable if you log in and play the game every day for a week or for a month. Grinding. This is where you are required to repeat the same task over and over in order to level up. This is a common tactic to engage the player in duration. The game designers argue it is their method of training the gamer, but ultimately it is forcing the gamer to game longer than they would otherwise. Playing by appointment. This is a common feature of online gaming and something to be on the lookout for new and younger gamers online. They aren't used to the idea of appointment times. They will have increased anxiety about meeting their appointment time, and they may lose points or ranking if they miss their appointment time. It's also important to point out to parents these types of games by appointment are live, which means the gamer can't pause like they would in an offline game. A monetary dark pattern is a pattern that tricks you into spending more money than you would want to spend on a game. The big ones to be on the lookout for are recurring fees. By setting up a monthly fee, the gamer often feels that they need to play as much as possible to get their money's worth in order to satisfy the value of the monthly fee. Pay to win or pay to skip. Many games embed a feature where you can buy yourself progression in the game with a simple click and purchase. There is no gaming going on here. It is merely a donation of money to the game developer. Loot boxes for purchase. These are the most contentious dark pattern in the monetary realm at the moment and are very much on the regulatory radar. Game developers often have loot boxes where a gamer can win a very rare game item. However, the gamer needs to buy the loot box. If this sounds like gambling, it is gambling. It encourages gambling behavior and irresponsible monetary behavior. Games will often give money or in-game currency that can be used towards these loot boxes that are derived from the duration of gameplay. Once again, the tactic is to encourage more time on the game in an attempt to maybe, but very unlikely, win a rare item. Social dark patterns. A social dark pattern uses your relationships with friends and family to benefit the game. Examples include social obligation. The game encourages being on a club or a team, and you feel like you are letting down your team by not playing when you don't want to. Fear of missing out, or FOMO. The gamer will feel left out or believes that they will fall behind and not be able to catch up if they miss a day or an event. And encouraging antisocial behavior. As we covered before, there is a lot of antisocial behavior in online gaming. When games actively encourage or don't discourage it, this is an active dark pattern that is attributed to the game itself. And lastly, psychological dark patterns. A psychological dark pattern is a psychological trick that is used to get you to make a bad decision. Some of these examples are invested value. The longer the gamer has played and the more money they've invested makes it harder for them to walk away. This would be similar to the sunk cost fallacy in business. Variable rewards. Any game that delivers random rewards is inherently more addictive, as it is similar to an intermittent reinforcement schedule, which is the underlying psychological component to gambling addiction. Completing collections or earning badges. While it is nice to see progress, eventually the accumulation of the badges to complete the collection is similar to grinding from earlier and begins to encourage time towards the game that isn't about fun. So in conclusion, gaming is not inherently bad. We covered the big four topics that are often targeted and offered more nuance to each one: violence in video games, video game addiction, impact on school performance, and antisocial behavior in online gaming. And afterwards, we pivoted towards the truly negative aspects in gaming, the intentionally designed dark and deceptive patterns, temporal, monetary, social, and psychological dark patterns. Thank you for listening, and please send a DM on Instagram at The Stellar Counselor. That's counselor with 2 L's. I look forward to hearing your feedback.